roundtable discussions. We would request all of you to kind of get ready for the next session. So if you have some last comments, last takeaways to kind of share with each other, please do. But we'll be wrapping it up in 1 minute. All right, thank you AWS for an amazing roundtable and the keynote. Would appreciate everybody's attention and a little bit of silence. Guys, as you say your goodbyes, we have to call upon our speakers and panelists for the next session. So, table 1 right in the front, please, a little bit of silence. People at the back, please settle down. We are here with our last session for the 2-day TiEcon. All right, there are selfies being taken. We'll let the selfies be done so that we can settle down. No, can someone please just go and settle them? Yeah. Guys, we are starting with the last session for the 2-day TiEcon conference here, and an amazing session here. The $550 billion opportunity. I mean, the title itself is an interesting one, and I'm so eagerly looking forward to this session. So on that note, the theme of this session, guys, the people in the front, please. Excuse me. People are so busy chatting up. They can't even hear somebody's talking on the mic. I think just to do justice to the panel, we'll just take 2-3 minutes for people to settle down. Pallavi, Abhishek, I think we need your help to settle people. Ladies and gentlemen, behind at the back, near the gate, please settle down. We have our last session waiting for everybody here. Really interesting round tables. Still going on. Can everyone please take your seats for the next session? A humble request, please. Please take your seats for the next session. All right. I think we'll invite the panel. So the theme for this session is investing in women, the $550 billion opportunity. What a number. I would like to invite on stage our chair for this panel discussion, Upasna Dash, CEO and founder, Jajabor. Pleased to invite our panelists for the day, Swati, Bhargava, co-founder, CashKaro and EarnKaro. Vandana, Tilwani, CHRO, Havas, India. Supriya, Paul, co-founder and CEO, Josh Talks. And Priyanka, Changia, co-founder and partnerships head, her entrepreneurial network, HEN. Welcome, everybody. And over to you, Upasna, from here.
Hello? This is working? Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for that, and really excited to be here as we are closing an epic 2 days. The last 2 days have been very interesting. Thank you, Ty. We're here for the last 2 days talking about the new era of entrepreneurship, an era which comprises of a new, bold and inclusive Bharat. And I think this panel here should tell you that one of the biggest drivers of that change is going to be women. I am so excited to be joined by some incredible women, leaders and enablers who have paved the way for women like me, first generation bootstrap women, to really go out and seriously think about breaking that ceiling and make a lot of impact along the way. And therefore, today's panel is not just about a great Women's Day campaign. It's actually about on-ground change and the immense opportunity that we have. The $550 billion opportunity. So just recently, McKinsey actually put out a report where they said that just adding 10% of women in the workforce in India will open up $550 billion in terms of opportunity. That is the scale that we're looking at today. And what I want to do today is actually have these incredible women around me show some light on how they've done it. Each of them individually have built resilient businesses, enabled women, and really showed us that this is possible. So on that note, I'd actually like to start with Swati. Swati, you have been one of the first torchbearers of this ecosystem. You're a founder that so many of us look up to. You've been here and built an incredibly resilient ecosystem and a resilient business. You've also raised funding from some of the biggest names in the ecosystem, including the iconic Mr. Ratan Tata. And I'd love to start this panel by just understanding how your journey has been. And according to you, what really has enabled you to be one of those women that the ecosystem has invested in, and how can the rest of us learn?
No, thank you so much. That's very, very kind. To everybody else here, it'll be great if you can join us or, not join, but make less noise. But yeah, thank you so much for hanging in there. I know it's been a long day for all of you. So thank you so very much for that. And great to see Upasna at one point before her entrepreneurial journey.
Yes.
We worked together. She was part of, our PR agency.
Yes.
So now I can see already, that entrepreneurial shift happening in women. And indeed, it's a proud moment. It's so nice to see you do well.
You.
So I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. You want to clap for that? We can. Yeah, for Upasna, from making that switch, which is never easy. We always talk about it, but making that switch is hard. So I grew up in a small town called Ambala. And growing up, I used to top in college and in school and all, but I never really knew what to think of कि आगे जाके क्या करना है. I think I didn't even have that broad horizon, so to speak. But in my class 12, I got 100 on 100 in maths. So my dad saw this advertisement in the newspaper for Singapore Airlines scholarship, and he was like, "Why don't you apply for this?" And I said, "There's no chance that a girl from Ambala is going to come in the top 25, so let's not do it." And then, I asked myself, why am I saying that? Because we have to give ourselves a chance. And the fact that I got so much encouragement from my family, the fact that they, paid attention to my ambition and my potential, that is the first answer to her question on what enabled me to get so far, right? It's because the support that I got. So I applied for that scholarship. I got through. I studied in Singapore. Then I got a scholarship to the London School of Economics. I did mathematics and economics there. And then I worked at Goldman Sachs in London for 5 years. And at LSE, I was, in fact, my friend Edmund here, who's joining us, taking this nice photo. We both wore yellow, so we know how to recognize each other. We are meeting after 20 years. And in that as well, the opportunities that have come along the way, they come all the time, but we have to learn to listen when that opportunity knocks the door, right? And my own hustle was strong. So I think that is my second reason, that, our own hustle and desire has to be strong. So after working at Goldman Sachs for 5 years, my husband Rohan and I started our business in the UK. We expanded it to India, launched CashKaro, and now we run India's largest cashback app. So if you're shopping online, you can go via CashKaro, get extra cash back. And we're not just talking about 2 to 5%, we're giving 50% on a brand like Lancome, Kiehl's, Kerastase, so you can get luxury brands also at a great deal. So when we brought the product to India, we felt that the CashKaro concept will do well here. The product market fit will be good because Indians will enjoy getting cash back, and e-commerce was growing. We wanted to participate in that growing economy. So that's the third factor to our success, the product market fit of our business. How did we identify that, right? And over these 10 years, I have been in numerous situations where, yes, I've been the only woman in the entire room. So never let that get to me. And the fact that I believe that, we have to make most of the opportunities that come to us. So 1.5 years ago, I had a kidney transplant. My mom donated a kidney to me. And in that particular year, we were doing our fundraise. So there was a time when I would be, going to the hospital for my checkup. I would also be doing pitches on the same day, at 5.5 hemoglobin, at 5% kidney function. I was a normal person, even partying in that year. So I think at the end of the day, the fourth, answer to your question about what gets us far is your own hustle, is your own desire, and how do you make that happen? We'll discuss that in some of the other questions, but these four things, I feel, the society and the support you get, the product market opportunities that come up, your own hustle, your own desire, are some of the reasons, I would say.
Thank you, Swati, as always.
Thank
so
you.
Inspiring. And I think you spoke about something very key to all of us, finding that inner hustle and actually acting on it. So thank you. I want to now move on to Supriya. Supriya, you've actually built an extremely powerful platform that has actually brought to the front incredible stories that we would not have seen if it wasn't for you and the work that you've done. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your journey. Why did you decide that that community was important, and what's your big insight and takeaway?
So, similar to sort of Swati, from an academic point of view, I always was a child who performed academically very well. I was one of those kids who was the first bencher, topper in the class, and whose objective in life was to, be the first person who gets like 95, 96% in the board exams, go to SRCC, do chartered accountancy, join a big four, make partner at big four, retire. So I had my life like very well planned out. And it also kind of came from my upbringing and my father playing a very, very big role in my career and giving me that push, until when I didn't make SRCC by 0.5, when I ended up in Venkateshwara College in Delhi University, and for the first time I was in a position where I didn't feel like the topper anymore. I wasn't on that adrenaline rush or high, and I was really lost and confused about what to do with my career. And that's really the time when I started going out of my way to interact with other people socially for the very first time outside of my books, to understand, what were people doing with their career choices, how were they making the decisions that they were making, and what was that outcome leading to. And I realized that, we are a country of 600 million young people, and 600 million young people are confused and taking decisions without the right kind of guidance or counseling. And I came from a place of privilege. I studied in Delhi. I had the right kind of advice at an early age, but I was still lost. But if you just go beyond metropolitan cities and you go to tier 2, tier 3 India, the internet doesn't exist in Hindi or in Malayalam or in Marathi or in Tamil for career-related information. So the objective really was that, can we, through an interesting manner, use storytelling to create role models for people who came from lower income households and backgrounds, and try and create a shift in their sort of career and thereafter economic outcome of our country. And like similar to what the experience that Swati shared, it was 2015. I was in college when I started, so only 20 years old. And besides being one of the few people in the room as a female, I think another bias was my age. So whenever I would go into any meetings, the question that I would keep getting asked constantly was, is this a hobby? Is this going to help you get that extra mark on your resume so that you can get a better job? And not only from people in the external side, even from my parents. They thought that, I'm volunteering, I'm running an NGO or a not-for-profit to be able to get a better career outcome. Until one day I decided and I said that I'm not going to sit for placements. This is it. I'm going to make a living out of it. So I think it's been an interesting journey so far, especially when you take up something which is in the domain of social entrepreneurship. It's a lot harder because we are a for-profit but purpose venture. So it's always sort of like, you're at the middle of taking decisions which are, should we move more towards revenue or profit? Should we move more towards social outcomes or purpose? And that's when funding also becomes complicated. But yeah, we've had a great journey so far.
Yes, super exciting, and all of us are here cheering you on and hoping you tell more stories. I want to now bring in a very nuanced and a very important perspective. Vandana, you are actually at the forefront of looking at some incredible career journeys shape up at your position. Would love to hear a little bit about, what do you see on ground, how your personal journey has been, and what's your big takeaway?
Okay, so I don't want to disappoint anybody. My story is not as exciting as Swati's and Supriya's, but no, it's very exciting to hear about your entrepreneurial journey. So, look, I come from a regular family. We were two daughters. Maybe because we were just two daughters, we never really knew what it was like to growing up with perhaps a brother, and therefore there was never any discrimination. We were always made to believe that you can do whatever you want, you can be whoever you want. So I think fundamentally that was very deeply ingrained into our minds. I think that, I've had this whole journey of being extremely confused about what I want to do in my life, and I think that's true for a lot of people. A lot of trial and errors. At a very young age of 21, I actually left home and I went and lived in another country, which is so unusual, unless you're really going to study. So I think those 5 years, of soul searching and, experimenting with life and, making all the possible mistakes. I mean, I think that did give me some clarity. But I have to say that, the moment you decide that you want to achieve something, then it doesn't matter. Then the world doesn't see that you're a girl or a guy. Really, if somebody sees you as somebody with talent or capability or skills, then honestly, this whole thing about gender, honestly, it doesn't come in your way. So if you choose to, if the moment you make up your mind and you choose to pursue and you have clarity in your mind, I think there's a lot, and I think that's what happened to me.
Wonderful. And I think a common theme here is just this purpose of self and actioning that hustle. Very exciting. And I think also a very big part of how this gets built is community, right? Today, the reason why we are here is because Thai built that community. So community is an extremely important cornerstone. And I want to bring you here, Priyanka, to tell me about why did you decide to build this community? What was your journey like and what's your big takeaway?
Hello, good evening, everybody. So, my story is a little bit different than all of you here. I come from a family where, back in the day, the only role model that was available for women in my family was that do distance education once you complete your 12 and get married and have kids. So when I saw my cousins go through that journey, it was very, very challenging for me to accept it as a young girl. So I made up my mind, and I remember the day I told my dad that, my cousin is going through this, but dare you not think about this as a future for me. So, and now when I think of it, I was barely 13-year-old then, and I'm like, so I was like, कुछ करूँ ना करूँ ज़िंदगी में, I want to make a difference, not only to my own life, but to the life of other women, who are there. So, and how this journey of Hen began was, I spent 13 years in corporate career. I was into market research and analytics. And one fine day I realized that, I want to do something different. And that's when my partner in crime, Ruchi, she is also a very, very dear childhood friend. She reached out to me and she said, I need your support on re-strategizing on Hen, and can you give me 2 hours of your day? And what started as helping a friend out on her journey became a life's mission and passion for me. And that's how my story with Hen began. But once I started working on building this community, I actually realized that the issues and challenges that women face while building the businesses does not begin at, just the business. It begins at home. Because first and foremost, the biggest challenge that comes, and I'm not talking about the privileged few, I'm talking about the mango people. Aam Janta, like the lens with which it is viewed is ki theek hai, the kids have grown up, you want to, spend your time doing something, kar lo. Most of the businesses are not even GST registered. Forget about getting into the MSME segment. Most women entrepreneurs start as homepreneurs. So where is the structure? Where is the larger goal? And how can we enable these women to actually think bigger than what they are currently thinking? And that is the, whole vision with Hen, to actually put these small entrepreneurs to enable them to think bigger than what they can usually think of, beyond them, and to actually empower and enable them through our community. So that is the biggest thing we are doing in this space, and I feel that this is quite needed, especially when we know that in the coming years the growth for our country is actually going to be fueled by these small, medium businesses, micro businesses. And if we can figure out a way to empower them, not just in terms of the promotions and the incentives that the government is giving, but also in terms of creating opportunities for them to access the market, to actually have access to finance, access to trainings, mentorings, and things like that. I think that's where the larger goal lies.
Thank you, Priyanka. An extremely important point, and that brings me to my second question, right? I think we all know there are multiple challenges, but there are also multiple opportunities. And one of the questions that we as an ecosystem have been thinking about is, where do you start? And Swati, I'd love your perspective on this. What do you think are the top 2 or 3 areas of focus that us as an ecosystem needs to really think about to really bring these women to the forefront?
I think it starts with when you're young, you know, and I said this at Women's Day as well. And I think I want to say this to all the women and men here, that we have to bring up the girls in our house, whether they are our daughters, nieces, whoever you can influence. Say that it's a good thing to be ambitious. Encourage them to be ambitious. You know, what is so sad to see is that when girls are young, they are told कि तुमने पढ़ लिख के करना क्या है? Like end में तो you are going to get married only ना. Oh no, you should do an MBA so that you get a good husband. So you know, our life is so defined by others, which gives a reason for which and we don't need that, right? So I think we have to say that ambition is a good thing. Let's encourage girls to be ambitious. So for me, it starts there, you know. And after that, at the workplace, we have to see how to keep more women in the workforce, how to make sure there is no gender bias, there is pay parity. These words sound good, but you know, now at CashKaro, we have 450 people. We do sales of about 4,500 crores every year. So it's a good scaled up startup in that sense. It's SME. But yeah, we do struggle sometimes to have enough women who can be in the workforce so that they can reach that leadership level, right? As per a LinkedIn survey I saw recently, only 18% of leaders in India are female, and men are anyways 40% more likely to get promoted compared to women.
With better pay.
With better pay, yeah, because we sometimes think that anyways we are not. So I think we have to enable, more supportive policies at the workplace, and at the same time, women should also want more for themselves. Like between Rohan and I actually look after the fundraise part, and we are 2 of us. We could have said ki nahi, let the male do it because there'll be some kind of female bias, but we never believed it. And you know what? Because we never believed it, we never faced it. We have raised 250 crores so far. Even that kidney transplant time I was telling you, we closed 130 crores round, after which I had my transplant. Mr. Tata is one of our investors, and I led the meeting with him, right? Both of us were there, but I was the one pitching. So in all these until Series C round, I've never felt going into a room that I will face bias here. So I don't let it get into my head, and therefore I think it doesn't happen. For our Series B as well, when we pitched at Korea Investment Partners Invested, I was in a room in Seoul, I remember, with 30, Korean men. I don't even know how much they were able to understand, because English is a challenge, right? So I was speaking quite slowly, and I was pointing towards the graphs and staying on at the graphs for some time as well. So we shouldn't think so. And I think what I got a really good inspiration on this last week from our finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman. She invited a few of us, about 35 fintech startups, to get our feedback on certain things. So the CEOs were there. And in that room at Vigyan Bhavan, it's a long room, everyone had their name tags, mics, everything. And I was the only fintech female founder. There were 2 others there who were there, but they were not founders actually. So I was pretty much the only fintech female founder. But and I say all this, that don't get into your head and everything. But when I walked into that room initially, before the FM arrived, all the boys were there, and the CEOs of all the big companies you can think of, all in like some kind of suits, right? And I went in, and everybody looked, and I was like, well, if I don't join this circle, where else do I go? There's no other circle in this room. And I don't want to be that person कि मैं वो kitty party की तरह लड़कियों के साथ लग गई, and then, no, I'm here for work. I'm here because of my business. So initially I went in, I said hi to everyone, and then I pretended that I've got to take a phone call, and I moved aside. But then I told myself, what am I doing? This is my business. This is my world. I have to get used to it. So I came back, and I stood in that circle with all of them. Then the RBI chairman came, the deputy governor came. I told myself, doesn't matter. Don't move from here. You can't be going behind. So I just stood there. And then because I was the only one, and I stayed there, everybody came and met me first, because I was the only one there. So I think if you stay at it and don't let it get to you, it works out. And then after that, when Nirmala Sitharaman came, she was sitting in the middle, all the other, men on her side, and these are all, minister of state and all those. When I saw her, I was like, that's it. You can never talk about being the female alone, because she is such an inspiration. She's got all these men around. She held her own. Everybody was like, honorable ma'am, honorable this. I was like, this is who you're gonna be. This is who you want to be, you know? And after that, I'm like, it doesn't matter, 1 guy or 10 guys. You gotta do your job, do it well. And that's all that really matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so inspiring to see that this is happening. It's not happening, in the US or another country. It's happening in our country. You and all of you are actually part of it. So incredible.
And I just want to
that.
say that, you know, if you ever have those feelings of self-doubt, please know you are not alone. We all have it. Like, I'm saying all of this to you, but it was me only last week who pretended to take a phone call, right? We all have that, but we all have to push ourselves then and say, well, this is my world and I'm going to make it my world, which means I need to go back in there. And once you do it, now it's actually fine.
It's all about taking that first plunge. Talking about biases, I know each one of us at the panel have faced it. We're still facing it. As a young founder myself, just last week, VC told me, you look too young to be running a serious business. Can you please get an older looking man just so that the other part, and this actually happened. They said the bankers won't take you seriously. So can you get a guy in your team? So I completely get that. And on that, I actually want to bring you in, Supriya. There's also an age bias that we deal with more than anybody else. When you have a young male founder raising money or doing things, you're like, wow, what an anomaly, what a role model. But when we do it, it says, hey, who's this young kid and can you get a guy in? So I want to understand a little bit about what is your message to all of those young women that are trying to steer their way through it, and how do you get past that?
I think, we're still on that journey ourselves, so I may not be in the best position to give advice, but I'll just talk through some of the things that I did that helped me. So the first thing is that it may not seem so by being on this panel, but I'm, a very, very big introvert. Like, I have huge issues talking to people when I go to events or conferences, can't, meet them in the eye and try and hold a conversation. And it was something that was holding me back, not just in my entrepreneurial journey, but especially with respect to fundraise, right? This was in 2017-18 when we needed capital. The startup ecosystem was just growing. It wasn't, YouTube wasn't sexy back then, and that's what we were doing. So it was very, very difficult to catch the attention of people, especially when you couldn't go out of your way and make a public appearance and say your story out loud. But one of the things that I took back with me, which then became my comfort, is that I loved writing. It was my medium of communication. So I took it as a challenge, and I think for the first 700 days of running the company, I wrote a cold email to a stranger on the internet every single day before I went to bed. The response rate wasn't that great, but if you want to look at it as numbers, I had close to 40 to 45 people who actually gave me a chance to meet with them, and then 11 of them became our angel investors. Amazing. So I've realized... Amazing. So I've realized over time that there are certain things that you do feel, and I feel that, as women, sometimes we do feel very conscious of going out and talking about ourselves. I find that my co-founder is a lot more confident about, our entrepreneurial journey, and I always try and underplay it and undertone it, but when I write, I can really write. And that became my medium of being able to talk to people and actually get them to participate in our fundraise. So I think my one message would be just figure out what works for you, and it's going to be a tougher journey for you than everyone else, no matter what everyone says. It is tough. Capital raise, male or female, is very hard. For female solo founders, it might be tougher. So figure out what works for you and just stay at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just basically circle around what's authentic to you and stick to it. I now want to get you in, Vandana, and ask about, what role will shaping female human capital play? How have you done it? What are your big insights? And what can women do to, especially women leaders, right? What can they do to enable that in their workforces?
See, I think the biggest challenge today is that while many girls are, outshining the boys in college, in schools, a lot of them are even making it to the workforce. A lot of them are also dropping out, Like Swati said, I think it's very important to get these women to stay or even come back every time they make this exit for whatever reasons, be it, maternity or whatever personal reasons. Because, you see, like, as you move up the ladder, the numbers start to get, dwindle, and it's more skewed towards, because a lot of women are not making it there. So I think what we really need is and what I personally want to do, and we are trying to do in my organization, is to create an ecosystem or even a culture like an own environment where women feel like they can come back. You know, and that it's a safe environment for them. So we have programs like, you know, maternity bounce back, where we really help them ease back into work and all that. And I think that you really, sometimes it's very uncomfortable for organizations to support women like that, because, you know, right now it's like, you know, the thought is that we are not here to do social work. We just, you know, we need to run the business. So it's difficult even with the best of intentions, but sometimes you really need to do it just because you know how this is going to, you know, change the game for the country or for women and so on. I think, so one, build an ecosystem where women feel that they can always like come back, and, you know, that they don't have to worry about making some of those difficult personal decisions. And they should have enough and more role models. You know, I just wish there were more and more women like, you know, y'all, and I'm sure so many others here, that they can look up to. And I think, and that's why I think hire women in leadership roles who can, you know, kind of be inspiring for them. So I think that is what I feel like, you know, if we just convince them or motivate them or inspire them to stay, and then, you know, and then I think then women can just do so much.
Absolutely. So I think just bringing in a lot of institutional support, right? Bringing women into the workforce is not just a woman's job. The ecosystem needs to come together, right? Very interesting. And you know, Priyanka, like I said, you are actually in the midst of running a very important community. What's your take? What do you think is going to be your number one focus area as a community builder to bring in more women?
So see, as a community builder, I think the biggest challenge that comes, and this is an experience I am sharing just from yesterday. So I was here yesterday, and the whole day was focused around investors, right? And I was just wondering, where are all the women? The ratio of men to women was so weak yesterday. Like today I saw so many more faces, but yesterday that number was very small. So I think as a community builder, our focus is going to be, you know, actually providing that ammunition to women to build resilient businesses so that they can take this growth trajectory, imagine and dream of crossing that barrier and scaling up their businesses and get on the growth path. Because I think the biggest limitations come from our own thought processes, from our own head. And that I feel, because as an entrepreneur, what happens is there is no handbook, there is no roadmap to success, and you guys will agree, like all of you are entrepreneurs here, and there is no one ready book. So there are so many times you need to make those mistakes, fall, get up, and start on and move on with your journey, right? So when the community is standing right behind you, cheering for you and saying, you go girl, we are here, watching your back, I think that is the biggest support women can find, and that is what we'll focus on so that we can bridge this gap.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I know we're now sort of coming, unfortunately, to the end of the panel, so I want to actually start my last round of questions. There are two questions combined together, and I would love each of you to chime in. So Swati, I'd like to start with you. I think one is, today we are actually sitting at the cusp of the new era of entrepreneurship in Bharat. Women making it to more roles beyond the boardrooms. How do you think that's going to impact us as an ecosystem? And then, most importantly, all of us are talking about investment and enabling women. What do you do personally to invest in yourself? They say, right, that the cup cannot pour until it's full itself. So how do you fill that cup? So two quick loaded questions. Would love to get everybody in.
Okay, well, short answer for the first one. Of course, it's, like you said, 550 billion opportunities. So we need more women in the ecosystem. Apart from anything else, the office is just so much more fun when women are there. And there's a very diverse perspective that we bring to the table. There are so many other skills that we have, which are, it doesn't have to be better than men. We are just contributing in our own way. I don't want to put down the men by saying we are better in so many ways, although we may be, but there is. And I think we can say that, yes, the system needs to do this and this, but I think women also need to want this success. It's not easy, right? So be okay to ask for help where you need. If at home we need help from partner, spouse, family, whoever it is, to be able to manage certain things at work, whether or not you have kids. I don't have kids. Still, I know that home management with it is not easy. Yes, my husband is very supportive, but at the same time, I have decided to take it on, right? Because that extra 2 hours, I'm like, you work those. I cannot work anymore. So I will take this part. So everyone has their own equation. So I think want that success, and women should also should take that seat at the table. So many times in meeting rooms, whenever we start a meeting, women will not come and sit up front on the table. They'll sit piche somewhere. And I'll always be saying, why don't you come up, sit and take your seat at the table? In all these conferences, sometimes we go because we like the speakers, we want to network with the speakers, but we'll come and sit right at the back. You know what, if you really come for that, you sit aage, puri seats khali hoti hain. So now I make it a point, if I'm going to a conference for someone, then I want to make sure I do meet them. And then, when they're talking, usually half people are checked out. So I'm sitting in front, actually coordinating with them. So by the end of it, they already know me, right? So I'm like, there's no harm sitting and, sitting in front, raising your voice, raising your hand. It's okay. And I think women don't do that enough. Also, we don't accept compliments as well, right? So if I say you've done a good job, it'll be like, yeah, I got really lucky, yeah, didn't you do anything? Of course you did. But then, we have to be okay with saying thanks. That's it. Because I think for women now, we are always scared of being judged, and it's true that we do get judged. We can either be too aggressive, too bossy, too bitchy, or a doormat. Kuch bhi de do kar legi. So that balance sometimes becomes hard to strike, but we have to strike that balance. And I think we can do it very well. In the office, you will find that when you find that balance, people will really like you as a leader because you will have empathy, but they will know that you have good decision making and you make fast decisions and you stick by them. You have the courage to stick by them. And that makes you respect them, makes them respect you as a leader. So what I do for myself is tell myself to try and do all of this, plus have a good morning routine. Because I think, that's really important. If you are going to go in as a leader, I heard this from Sister Shivani once, and it stayed with me, that you have to charge your own battery so that you can go and charge others. So figure out how you charge yourself in the morning. So for me, doing my morning gratitude affirmations, doing yoga, doing walking, exercise, meditation, I have a routine like that. And that keeps me happy. I believe my resolution was 2 years ago that I have to always feel good. If you focus on feeling good, you will attract that from the universe and good things will happen. So that's what I believe. The universe has my back, and I just try to remind myself. Find something like that which you believe in, stick by it and make it yours.
Brilliant. I'd love for you also to come and how do you charge your battery?
I think two things that I do for myself. The first is that I exercise a lot. So on an average, at least like 75 to 90 minutes per day. Wow. And I keep changing my orientation with what form of exercise I want to do. And the second thing which I lost touch with after college was reading. And now in the last 2 years, I've really focused on that. And typically entrepreneurs will just be like, okay, no, only read your non-fiction books, and the same 10 books will go around and keep getting recommended. But I've also started over the last 6 to 8 months that I've started reading fiction as well. Because sometimes you need to look beyond your work and just feel creatively stimulated, and a good story can do that to you. So that's what I do.
Absolutely, a great story. And Vandana, please do share. How do you charge your batteries and how do you invest in yourself?
Honestly, a lot of this, I'm very disciplined about my life. I'm not afraid to not be part of the pack. Okay, so there are some things. I'm a hardcore introvert. There are some things I just don't enjoy doing, like necessarily hanging out after work, or and I'm in the media and advertising world. It really drains the energy out of me, and I realize that the more I do of that, the less I'm happy. So I've learned to say no. I've learned to, and I think thankfully my organization has learned to accept me with all my quirks. And I think at the end of the day, what really matters is that I can be myself, and I think that if I'm true to myself, and that makes me give my best, and I think that is my biggest. I've learned to say no. Very disciplined about what I want to do. If I don't want to do something, I don't do it. That's my thing.
Very powerful. The power of saying no. And Priyanka, donning many hats, how do you rejuvenate yourself?
So couple of years ago, there was this program that happened in Noida, and Sadhguru himself came to take the inner engineering program. And I still remember I hadn't signed up for it, and my brother, he just signed me up, and he said, it's not a choice, you have to go for this. And I went for the program, and what I experienced during the program and the technique that I learned, the Shambhavi Mahamudra Kriya, that has really worked personally for me. Like every day when I do the Kriya, I just feel very centered, and I feel everything just falling in place mentally, emotionally. I think emotionally very, very important, because it centers me. And that is something that really works for me. And the second thing is, of course, my morning routine of doing the Kriya and then going for a nice long morning walk. Chandigarh is a beautiful city with beautiful gardens, so I love to do that. And the third thing that I do is reconnect with my inner child. Through my 9-year-old daughter, and she almost claims her time with me every single day, despite whatever might be on the table. So I have been back to board games and Unos and painting. So it's just been like reliving your own childhood. So that works beautifully for me.
Wonderful, thank you. And on that note, I want to thank each and every one of you. Thank you so much. I think your stories are incredible. They show us resilience. They also show us how important it is to connect with oneself. And I'm so excited to see what each of you do. And thank you for everybody in this room. And thank you, TiEcon, for enabling this dialogue, a very important one. And we hope to come back with more of this in the coming editions. Thank you, everybody.
If I could just have 30 seconds, sorry. There is a very important thing I forgot to mention here. So one thing I want to really appreciate about the entire Havas team is that earlier this year we partnered with them to launch a mentoring program for women entrepreneurs, Empower Hers, and currently 22 members from the hen community are being mentored by 11 senior leaders from Havas. And what this has essentially enabled is give a lot of insight and guidance to entrepreneurs in our community, which they wouldn't have access to otherwise. And the talent that these leaders have is something really, really priceless. So I just wanted to thank the entire team at Havas. Guys, thank you so much for supporting this community, and gratitude from entire team at hen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you, Ty, and thank you to all the panelists.
Thank you so much. What an amazing, amazing dose of inspiration, I must say.
By the way, if anyone's posting on Instagram, my ID is Swati DB. You can
We're Upasna Dash.
Supriya Paul.
hen.india.
Oh, if you want, I don't remember.
We'll find you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate it. Just give me a second. Thank you, Upasna. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Hope you had a great time at TiEcon. Hope the sessions were enriching, insightful. So have a great evening, and see you all soon, very, very soon. Thank you so much.